guys, it's Amy here, and today I bring you a video all about vegetarianism and my experience with it. So I mentioned a little while ago that I wanted to make a video about vegetarianism because as of, I think, the 4th of April this year, I have been a vegetarian for a whole year. So I wanted to kind of log my experience of that and share with you kind of what I feel I've gained from this and moving on in the future and things. So where to begin? Let's start from how I came to become a vegetarian, and my upbringing, I guess, is kind of vital in all of this. So I have always been a meat eater. My entire family eat meat. In fact, I don't know anyone directly related to me that is a vegetarian at all, like in extended family or anything like that. One of my best friends, whilst I was in school, she was a vegetarian for 5 years, and I remember thinking at the time when she was telling me about being a vegetarian and hearing all of the things that she was saying, I remember thinking in my head, like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand why you would be a vegetarian. Like, I understand animal cruelty and all of that, but I just don't understand what the problem with eating meat was. And there was just this huge disconnect with the meat on the plate and the cruelty and all of that element of it. I just didn't get it, and I wasn't ready to get it. Like, I love animals a lot, and I have done ever since I was little. Like, we've always had pets and things in my home, and, you know, I've always been a big advocate for treating animals well. But for some reason that did not connect with the animals that are factory farmed and produced to become things on your plate. That just didn't connect for me. The way I'm looking at it now is that I got to a point in my life where I was ready to be a vegetarian. Like, I mentally and physically and everything lined up at that point last year to lead me to become a vegetarian. Everything just came at the right time, and that was the time that I was meant to become a vegetarian. I don't think I could have forced it at any other moment, and I think people speaking to me before and vegetarians, having conversations with vegetarians before, has never ever made me want to become a vegetarian. And stuff just happened last year, and then it all just happened at once. So moving on, what changed? Like, what happened last year to lead to me wanting to become a vegetarian? So I mentioned that disconnect between the food on the plate and the kind of cruelty and how it got to your plate, and I think that is something that hit me quite hard. This idea of being a vegetarian was just planted in my brain and kind of in the kind of back of my mind the whole time whenever I was eating meat and whenever I was like buying things at the supermarket and things like that. It was always just in the back of my mind, and it slowly got to the point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before, but I still live with my family. I'm currently saving to buy a house, and so I still live in my family's home. So because of this fact, before I became a vegetarian, all of my meals and everything was shared with my family. So I work a different shift every other week, and some of those weeks I finish quite late. I finish at 8 PM in the evening, so quite often I would come home and my family would have prepared dinner earlier in the evening, and they would have left me a plate of food. Now, in my head, because my parents were providing me with food, they were paying for it, they were cooking it for me, I felt bad turning my nose up at a plate of food which someone had, you know, put time and effort and money into to make sure that I was fed that evening. And so one of the biggest things for me to tackle was the idea that I didn't have to eat the food that my parents were providing for me. Like, I could say to them, I'm not going to be eating meat anymore, and I could cook my own food, and it didn't have to be a big deal. But for me, for some reason, I found that to be quite a big thing to tackle, to say to my parents, like, I'm not going to be eating with you anymore. I don't want the food that you're providing me. I'm going to be eating something different. For one, I didn't want them to be, like, offended that I was judging them or anything in any way, or that I didn't feel grateful for what they were doing. Like, I don't know what it was, I just found that quite difficult. But once I got over that thing, and I actually just said to my parents, like, on the day that I decided to become a vegetarian, I just said, I'm not going to eat meat anymore, I'll start cooking my own food, and it wasn't a problem at all. Like, and ever since then I cook like all of my own meals. So I think I imagined it to be a much bigger problem than what it was. I think also sometimes once you've verbalized something and actually put it out into the world, there's that pressure that if you don't live by and stand by what you've said you're going to do, you might feel like a failure, or that people are going to judge you if you mess up. And that was definitely something that was in the back of my head, like saying to people I'm a vegetarian now, or I'm gonna try and be a vegetarian, that they were then like, oh okay, and almost like watching you to see if you could do it or if you were going to slip up in any way. And I think that just took a little bit of time for me to just realise that what does it matter, because at the end of the day this is my life and my body, and I'm setting this kind of guideline for myself, and so it's only me that is holding myself accountable for it. Another big aspect of the kind of meat eating thing, and the fact that I had been watching various people on YouTube and things like that, was the fact that meat quite literally was making me feel sick whilst I was eating it. So I have never been a big meat eater anyway. Like, I would never sit down and eat like a steak. I was quite often like the person who would be able to eat meat if it was disguised in something. So if I just had like small pieces of meat on a pizza or a like inside a meal that I just, you know, didn't connect, and quite often if I did start to think too much about what I was eating and the animal and stuff, then I just wouldn't be able to eat the rest of the meal, and I'd have to leave it, or I'd have to take out the meat because it was just making me feel sick. Physically chewing on large chunks of meat just, it would turn my stomach. It's really funny me saying that, because I know for years I was like that, all through my childhood, all through like up until last year I was like that, yet I've never thought to myself, maybe I should become a vegetarian. Like, I don't have to eat meat, I don't have to continue doing this because it like is making me feel sick. Like, I can stop if I want to. It's really funny, like it almost took me to say to myself, like, Amy, you're an adult, you can choose what you put in your body, you can choose what you eat, you don't have to eat meat anymore. So I remember the last meat meal I ate was a spaghetti bolognese last April, and I went to bed and I genuinely lay down to go to sleep, and the guilt, I guess that's what it was, I guess that's the feeling I had, got so much. Like, I feel so deeply about things. I'm like a really highly sensitive person, and the guilt about eating this animal got so much that I literally cried myself to sleep. And it was that point that I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can be a vegetarian, and even if it doesn't go well, or even if like after a month I realise that I don't want to do it, like, I can make this decision to do this now and stop causing myself all this like inner turmoil and anxiety and worry about it. Like, I can just stop. So I did. And I'll try and get back to my question. So what did I watch slash like read, what was I influenced by at the time? So the few people that I watched on YouTube, and to be honest I wouldn't advise one of them, but this is the person that I stumbled across, which did lead to me thinking about things quite a lot, and that was Freely the Banana Girl. I would say if you're thinking of becoming a vegetarian or a vegan, like, she is an interesting person to watch. She does have very valid points, but she's extremely aggressive and quite vulgar in the way that she gets across her argument, and although I found her videos very shocking, I quite often was quite disgusted in the way that she like dealt with issues. Some other people that I would really advise are The Vegan Couple and Boho Beautiful. The Vegan Couple are people that I were watching at the time of deciding to become a vegetarian. They're two really articulate people. They're really considerate in the way they present themselves and the way that they present their arguments. I just think they like know what they're talking about, and they're not like shoving it down your throat, and I like that. You know, I'm not a vegan, but I find these people's videos really interesting, and you know, maybe one day it would lead me to becoming a vegan, I don't know. Boho Beautiful are a young couple who do a lot of like yoga and fitness videos, but also they are vegan and they do vegan cookery videos as well. I think they're brilliant, and I do a lot of her yoga videos as well and absolutely love them. So if you want a yoga recommendation channel, definitely head up. I will link them all down below. Some influencers that are slightly closer to booktube, people that I'm sure you've heard of and are subscribed to, but if you're not, I'll leave them linked down below, are Jean at Bookish Thoughts and Sana at Books and Quills. Both of those lovely women are people that I do look up to as creators and kind of articulate, intelligent, strong women here on booktube, but also in general life as well. Like, I've met them on various occasions and have always been aware that they are vegetarian and that they lead that lifestyle. And so I think having those people and having that friendship with someone who has vegetarianism as like a part of their life definitely influenced me as well, because it always always kind of played in my mind whenever we'd have like meals together that like they were vegetarian and that they had a different lifestyle to me, and so I think knowing people who you look up to and who you admire as people is definitely a good thing, and I would highly recommend their channels. A TV documentary I would recommend is Food Inc., and also a book I would recommend is Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. This book definitely kind of solidified my feelings on being a vegetarian. I read it a few months into being a vegetarian, but if you're considering to be a vegetarian, I would highly recommend you picking up this book. After reading and loving this book, I bought it for a number of my friends and family, and all of them that have read it so far have either become vegetarians or have cut down their meat by a substantial amount. My boyfriend is one included. A couple of other questions I had here was, how did I tackle it? Was it easy? I literally went cold turkey, excuse the term. I just cut everything out. I didn't like decide to cut out white meat first or fish first or anything. I literally cut everything out, and I personally didn't have a problem with it at all. I thought that maybe I would, but no, I didn't have an issue. One thing I've realised is that you have to be quite careful of various things in the supermarket that you wouldn't expect to have meat in, but actually do contain pork or beef gelatin. There was one occasion when I was at a friend's house and she had cooked these like round little cheese things, and I didn't realise until I'd already like eaten half of one that it actually had ham in it as well. So that was a thing. Like, it didn't bother me, like I just kind of put the rest of the thing down. I didn't spit it out or anything. Like, it did make me feel a bit weird, but I didn't beat myself up about it because I thought, you know, at the end of the day, like, I am consciously making an effort to not eat meat most of the time, so one slip up is not the end of the world. One thing that I did find really weird was that I kept having these really bizarre, like, reoccurring dreams about eating meat and like, or accidentally eating meat and then feeling really bad about it and like beating myself up about it. And it was just the weirdest thing, because I'd wake up in the morning and feel really dejected and really like, oh, like I've like failed, like I've eaten meat, and then realise, hold a second, no I haven't, like it was a dream. That's the most bizarre thing, like, for your brain to do to yourself. Like, I didn't get that at all. Like, I'm sure someone can psychoanalyze me and tell me what that was about, but yeah, I get them occasionally. It's really, really bizarre. Have I noticed any changes in myself, mentally, physically? I mean, you guys may have noticed, I did mention it before, but I have actually lost like 4.5 stone, not just in the last year. I think it's about 3.5 stone just in the last year, but overall since my heaviest I've lost 4.5 stone. So obviously physically there's been a big change in myself this year, and that isn't just directly related to becoming a vegetarian. Obviously that helped because it all started at the same time. I decided if I'm gonna become a vegetarian, I'm also gonna eat very healthily and I'm gonna put good stuff in my body. I'm not just gonna eat like crap. And so obviously physically everything is different in my body. I feel completely different. I feel so energized, and obviously I think that has a big part to do as well with the fact that I'm putting a lot of like nutritious things in my body through being a vegetarian. Mentally it has just made me a lot happier. Like, I just feel better in myself, and that's not to say that if you eat meat then you should feel rubbish about yourself, but me as a person in general, I'm highly affected by things and feel things very, very deeply, and even the smallest kind of disturbance to me in my life can cause kind of huge bouts of depression and anxiety. And so I think doing this just only aided myself, and it only helped me mentally, because I now just feel like even if other things in my life aren't going so well, like, it's like, well, I'm a vegetarian and I feel better that I am doing that in my life, and I've made that decision, and I just feel like a better person. So looking on to the future, I know I definitely want to continue on with being a vegetarian. Veganism is something that's on my kind of horizon, but I don't know really how far I will go into that. So yes, that's my experience with being a vegetarian, and everything that I feel kind of tags onto that. Do let me know if you have any other questions down below. What's your experience? Are you a vegetarian? Are you thinking of becoming a vegetarian? Are you a meat eater and just have no interest in it at all? I would really love to hear everyone's kind of thoughts on this, because I find it such an interesting thing that I was like a meat eater for like 23 years of my life, and then suddenly it was like, nope, can't do that anymore. And so yeah, let me know in the comments. As always, I will leave links to Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, everything I've mentioned today down below. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you soon. Bye!